agenda today, what we're going to talk about is what is a good presentation. I'm going to run through a few slides on some general principles of a slide presentation. We'll talk about creating slides with AI and what tools there are available to work with in that. We will talk about improving a presentation with AI because the title of this was Making Better Presentations with AI. So what are the elements of a good presentation? Three essentials of a great presentation are clarity, and that's one important thing. Engagement, having your audience interested and participating if appropriate. And then visual aids. Those are typically what you hear commonly used in professional presenters and training and other things on the three essentials of a great presentation. Clarity is making sure that people understand what you're communicating. You are communicating information to people, and you just happen to be doing it in the format of a presentation. So part of it is making sure your message has the ability for people to comprehend it. Comprehension is important. So not assuming people understand a lot of things already is an important thing. There's a phrase that's commonly used called the curse of knowledge, when people who know a lot about something communicate to people who don't know a lot about that topic, but they make assumptions about what other people know. We assume people know what we know, and that's not always true. Avoiding jargon and complex language is a key to understanding as well. So technology terms, abbreviations, acronyms, other things like that, trying to simplify language. And one of the key things about writing professionally that people do is that if you can create something and communicate something in as simple a sentence as possible, it's usually better than a more complex sentence. Now, there's obviously fiction and artistic license that can be adjustments to that, but those are the types of things you want to look at. And then having a structure, a smooth flow, so people understand this is going to build and this is going to go point by point by point. Engagement, that's about keeping attention, not necessarily having interaction. Interaction is a type of engagement, but keeping attention is what's the most important thing. And interaction is one way to do it, making sure you can see people nodding, interject questions periodically if it's appropriate, understanding where there's a way to have an activity if it's possible as well. Asking questions stimulates discussion. When I do my community college classes, I open up with questions, and because they're 2.5, 3 hours in length, we have time for people to ask questions, and we can stimulate discussion. In this format, I'm just asking people to hold questions until I'm done showing them everything, because it makes it easier to edit, and we can get through all the material fast enough as well. Okay. And then sometimes storytelling. We don't often tell stories about how we do things and what we've done. But I mean, I told you a story at the beginning about how I got into doing presentations, about my work history. And so that helps create a little more emotional connection. Now, most of you know me and you've been on my slide presentations and tech topics and other things. So we've gotten to know each other a little bit in some of our activities. But sharing stories about ourselves and what we're doing and why we're doing it can really help a lot, as opposed to just giving the facts on a slide. Visuals are there to support your message. You don't have to have complicated visuals. You just have to have some visuals. Okay. And so the hardest part is connecting an image to an idea. If you want to communicate a point like, say, simplicity or tranquility or something like that, it can be a little bit hard. If you want to communicate something like sharing, thinking of an image that connects to an idea can be a real challenge. I enjoy that challenge. I will look through images a lot when I'm trying to create something that connects to an idea, but not everybody wants to take that time. But images do help support. If you look at social media, if you look at our video, we watch television shows and we watch movies. It's the visuals that our eyes see we're listening to dialogue, and it's the visual scenes and activities and action that really connect with us and what we're doing. Your visuals shouldn't distract from the image. They should be supportive in terms of encouraging what people do and how they do it and what they want to learn. And then quality images makes a difference. Having good photographs of your own is great, but also there are several stock image libraries around that are available. And I've done some slide presentations and tech topics on stock images, but some of the applications have built-in image libraries as well, which makes it easier to integrate them into your content. Now, one of the things you want to look at is some other tips. Sharing some other tips is really helpful. And these are some things that I'm going to share from you from my experience, what I've learned about making presentations. Probably the best thing you can do is understand your audience. Who are they? What is their knowledge and level of understanding of the topic you're going to be presenting? How do they like to learn? What is it they're trying to learn? What is it they want to communicate? And understanding that by the end of your presentation, you ought to have a goal in mind about what do you hope your audience understands by the time you're done. And that makes it really clear for you to say, well, I don't have to do these things in the presentation because that's not so important. Yeah, I'd like somebody to become a rocket scientist, but I don't expect them to understand that in 20 minutes. I just want them to explain that when you light up the bottom of a rocket, it goes up in the air type of thing. Avoid using small text. Having a lot of text on a slide and just text only makes it really boring. And there are people who will read exactly what is on a slide. A visual aid, a slide is a visual aid, and it should really be there to support what you're saying, not to be something you read from. If you can read it and you can give it to people in the form of a handout, if you've got details or other things that are things like spreadsheets or small numbers or lengthy documents that you want people to read, give them a document that they can read. Send it to them in advance, make it as an attachment, put it in, chat if you're on Zoom or something like that. But there's a way, there's a place for documents, there's a place for slides, and using both. So understand where each one's going to fit better. And then I recommend don't having any more than 1 to 3 points per slide. And the idea for this slide came from traffic lights. Traffic lights have 3 colors. Even in Barranquilla, they have 3 colors, although sometimes you'll see a red and a green only. But when they do have 3 colors, they will have a red, a yellow, and a green because people are driving. Your attention is necessary. You can get distracted really easily. So making it easy for people to understand what that traffic signal means not putting, a lot of different colors or shades in it or variations or other things like that. And so 3 colors and 3 points kind of goes together. It's a good example of keeping things simple so you can communicate your point. Now, AI can help in a number of ways. AI can help draft ideas. So if you want to say, hey, write a presentation for me, you can use a composing AI tool to say, give me a slide presentation on this topic. But you can also improve your prompt by telling it what kind of audience you have, what you hope to accomplish in the presentation so that the AI has a better understanding of what you want it to do, as opposed to, well, give me a presentation on animals. Well, it'll come up with a lot of different things. But if you say, give me a presentation about birds for 5 to 6 year olds that would help them understand it in 5 to 10 slides, then you're giving your AI a little more direction. It's like telling a person what you want them to do. AI can create slides. There's different variations between Keynote, PowerPoint, and Google Slides in terms of the capabilities. We'll take a look at those. And then visuals, you can ask AI to say, hey, this is a point I want to communicate, and I can't think of a visual that would really support that. Can you create and suggest one for me, and it'll come up with solutions for you, and it can give you feedback. You can say, hey, is this presentation missing anything? Is it too long? And I've got a really long prompt we'll use today on this presentation to see what AI thinks of it. And we'll actually put it in practice. So let's take a look at a few tools here. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to find my PowerPoint slides here and do something a little bit different. And we're going to go to setting up a new PowerPoint presentation here. Now, I've got PowerPoint open here, and I use the Microsoft 365 subscription in PowerPoint. So what I have on my menu is I have a couple of things that you may or may not have if you don't use the 365 subscription. I have a Copilot button in the upper right-hand corner. Now, if I don't have anything on this presentation, I'm just going to click on Copilot, and I'm going to copy a prompt, and Copilot will tell you what it can do: create a presentation, edit a slide, tell me what they're about, show key slides in the deck. And it has an AI credit balance that's basically telling you how much AI credits you've used in any 1 month. So I'm going to try pasting a prompt in here. It says, give me a 5 to 10 slide presentation on learning about birds for 5 to 6-year-old children, and include a slide on a class activity. And I'll click this, and it's going to work on a response. Copilot's capable to do this. So we want to say, create new presentation. I want to create a new presentation. It's going to bring up another prompt here. And I'm going to just paste that in again. And now it'll go off and it'll start to create the presentation for me using AI. So these are slides that it's created. And I can say, generate slides. It'll generate the entire slide deck for me. I don't know if it'll add the visuals or not. We're going to take a look at that. But it's adding titles. It's maybe going to add some graphics. We hope so. And it gives us a little 5 to 10 slide presentation here on birds aimed at a 5 to 6-year-old audience. It's got a few more slides than I wanted. So sometimes the AI won't get those things right. So I know when I use ChatGPT, it does a little better job. But here's the slide presentation. I know why it has more. It has some section titles here. So if I want to see this presentation here, I'm going to put on the slideshow. And this is a slideshow that will tell us about these things. Let me go back to the beginning here. And I'll keep it in this mode of PowerPoint so you can look at it. So it gives me introduction to birds. What are birds? A little bit smaller text than we would like. So some of the things are, but it starts out, what are birds? A 5 to 6-year-old audience might not understand what a bird is. Some characteristics of birds, a few little problems here with some spillover of type, but the 3 important elements that are characteristics. Talks about types of birds. Robins, sparrows, pigeons, some examples, exotic birds from around the world, bird habitats, where do they live, different types of bird homes, trees, nests, etc., bird food, what do birds eat, how do they find their food, interesting facts, amazing bird abilities, and a class activity for bird watching, and what to look for. Came up with drawing and sharing what we saw. So really came up with a pretty nice slide presentation, I think, without a whole lot of work on my part. Now, obviously, you can go in and modify the slides and adjust the text size, which I'd recommend, and doing a few things like that. But PowerPoint, as part of Microsoft 365, includes this AI tool. Now, once you've created the slides, it's not possible to use AI to edit them, unfortunately, but AI is going to create the content for you, go out and find photos from Microsoft stock photo library and build an entire presentation for you without you needing to really do more than just, basically try this out and see what's going to happen. And you can see all the slides in your PowerPoint presentation. So that's PowerPoint. PowerPoint and with Microsoft 365 and Copilot has a lot of this capability. It also has some other tools like Designer built into it. So if you have a slide and you want to view this as a slide presentation and take a look at this, you have the ability to go to the home screen, and there is a tool called Designer, which uses AI that will come up with design ideas for your slide presentation and come up with different approaches and different visuals that it'll pull from its library. So these are just click. You can select different ones for each slide and choose whatever makes sense for you that you might want to keep. Then you can just save it to auto-save and ask it, give it a file name, and it'll talk about birds for kids, okay? And I'll save it. Not too long to create a presentation, right? And you're using Copilot, so you have knowledge from a lot of places. Okay, so let me go to Google Slides next. Now, Google Slides is a little bit different. If you have the Google $20 a month paid plan, it will create more slides than just one. But if you have a single slide, it can create a slide for you at one at a time. So if I wanted to have a slide about birds, I can try this and I can say, give me a presentation. I don't know if it's going to give me a presentation or it's just going to give me one slide. So I don't know why it came up with electric vehicles here. So it's kind of an odd situation here, but it doesn't really understand. So if I want to say, hey, give me a slide about types of birds, it will do one slide at a time, typically. Okay. Now, one thing about Google is that it will reference your Google Cloud Workspace files. So if you wanted to use a document you have in your Google Drive, it is possible to refer to that document in your Google Drive. So this is a slide. It's created. It's good, and it's got me an idea. So we'll take this and use it as a slide, but it's only going to give you one slide at a time with the free Google account. Just be aware of that. But it is possible to create slide by slide by slide if you want to. And you could start with Gemini to say, give me ideas for a presentation, 5 to 10 slides on different uses like that too. Okay, so let me go to my next application window here. Let me find Keynote and make sure I have that open. Yes. And I will show you Keynote in Apple. I'm just going to change this text to birds. Select all. So I have a single slide open. I'm actually going to share my entire screen here for a minute, and it'll be a little bit easier to show you things. Now you see my Keynote window open, and I want to do something here with AI. Well, there's no AI tool available for me to use. I can select the text here, for example, and then when I do that, I get the ability to go to the edit function and go to the basic writing tools. So it does me the ability to adjust the text, do a few things that way, create some key points. If you go compose, it goes outside to ChatGPT, but it's only going to do something for one particular slide. There is the ability with the media to use the image playground to insert photos, but you'll get a particular style. I'll say birds, okay, and we'll see if it comes up with birds and describes an image and doing different things. So it's going to come up with some choices on birds. The images are a little bit cartoon or other qualities. So I can take this one or another one or another one. They're not necessarily photorealistic. I do have the ability to change from the style of animation to a different style. I can go to an illustration and use it to create an illustration, but you can see still somewhat basic in terms of what it tries to generate. And unfortunately, that's where Apple is kind of behind on AI. I could insert this picture in, but Apple doesn't really have any tools built into Keynote to actually create a slide just by giving you a prompt. That doesn't exist. However, you can go to things like ChatGPT. So let me open up my ChatGPT window, and you can do this with Gemini. You can do it with other AI applications. One of the things about AI is it's become what's called multimodal. What that means is that you can work with images, you can work with voice, you can work with text. So I want to do this. I want this presentation to do something. Reg, I'll get your question a little bit later. I see your hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fine. So thank you.
I got a prompt here I'm going to take. Let me take this prompt. This is a long prompt, and I'm going to copy it and paste it in. What I want to do is I asked ChatGPT, review this presentation for older adults who want to learn about technology and make suggestions for critical points that could be added, unnecessary items, and ways to simplify the slide content so it is easier to read. Let me know if you have any suggestions for graphics that would enhance it, and if there's any critical points that should be emphasized. And the audience is for a group of adults who want to learn how to use technology and make occasional presentations to group organizations and clubs, and keep the recommendations to that. So now I'm going to drag my PowerPoint slide presentation and drop it in, and it's going to go and do an analysis for me on this presentation. So that's one way, by asking the right kinds of questions of your AI thing, it'll give you feedback on it. So it says it's solid and friendly introduction. Thank you, ChatGPT. Here's a detailed review with suggestions. Critical points to add. Why presentations matter. Interesting. Okay. What makes a bad presentation? Interesting. AI tools, talking about not only ChatGPT, mention the tools that are out there and how to practice, and mentioning accessibility. What's unnecessary? Slides 12 and 13 are blank. They were in my draft. Consider deleting, and the repeated 3 essential slides could be collapsed into one with subtle reveal animation if you're using PowerPoint, or just layered verbally. So you're getting feedback from somebody who's really evaluating your slide presentation. So it's giving you suggestions on how to change it and adjust the word, and going through the specific slides, and giving you graphics that would be relevant for it as well. So that's not a bad analysis. So it's asking, would you help like updating or reformatting? Now, one thing you can do with ChatGPT and some of the other AI tools as well is that I want to create a presentation. I'm going to copy the same prompt I used for the 5 to 10 slide presentation for 5 young adults, for young children. And let's see what it comes up with. It's going to give you a title slide. So you can just copy and paste this. So even if you're using Keynote or Google Slides, or even if you're using PowerPoint, you can use ChatGPT to come up with the ideas here. And it'll suggest some visual aids and activities. Ask the kids, have you ever seen a bird nest? Tweet, mimic the sounds, right? Have a diagram of it. That doesn't tell you, it may not make a diagram, but it's giving you an idea. Then be a bird watcher. Interesting that, Copilot and ChatGPT came up with that. So you can do this. Now, would you like me to create this as a PowerPoint? If I say, create this as a PowerPoint, it's going to create the entire presentation in a PowerPoint file that I can download to my computer and import into PowerPoint. And that's one of the things that ChatGPT will do. Gemini can do that. And if you have the paid version of Gemini for Workspace, you can get that capability in there as well. So the other things you can do is just use things in ChatGPT to give you some feedback, or any AI. And so you can ask it questions. There's the downloadable presentation. It's a downloadable file. You click on that. It's going to download the file to your computer, and you can open it up in PowerPoint on your desktop. Another type of prompt you can do is just giving advice. What should I do to keep my audience interested during a slide presentation on a subject like traveling to Florence, Italy? That's a pretty interesting topic, but here's a way to keep things engaged. These are some ideas for how to do it and what you can do, and things that you can, that it will suggest. Telling stories, share personal experiences, quirky facts, or little known legends. Why the baptistry doors are called the gates of paradise. I don't remember why, but I actually remember seeing them. Add a dash of multimedia, ask questions, include a wow moment, use big fonts. So that's another way you can use AI as a coach to help you with almost anything, from fitness to work to hobbies. So I wanted to use this slide presentation. What are the most common mistakes people make when presenting to Anne? And I accidentally cut off the ending, but the ChatGPT guessed it, said, I'm guessing you meant when presenting to an audience. Here are some of the most common mistakes: reading slides word for word, too much text, poor visual design, lack of energy, jumping around, going over time, not knowing the audience, technical issues, no interaction, weak opening or ending. And you can say, gee, I want to polish up my presentation on Florence to these. So those are just some ways you can use AI